When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Hey Atlanta, Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
I will say right now, I think this is a great movie. McQuarrie directs with such elegance and classical filmmaking style. I think his films are precision tooled, taking his time in the right way. I think they're really, really well paced and classically done. And, he's become Cruise's man.
Yeah, rewatching this, I could see how he got the Mission Impossible gig, because when he does the set pieces, the film really comes to life. When they're not doing some action, I'm not super engaged, but like I say, when he's beating people up or doing a car chase, it's all good.
And I think he's such a steady pair of hands. I really do. And I think there's so many sequences in this that are so well put together.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Today I'm joined by Liam.
Hello.
Chris.
Hello.
And Helen.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about Jack Reacher.
Thank you as always to the mighty people for the mighty, mighty tunes. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram
at FlixWatcher. Hello film fans, welcome to Flixwatcher podcast. Joining us remotely today we have Liam and Chris. If you could please say hi to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm host of two podcasts. I host a Steven Spielberg based podcast called the Spielberg Pod, where we talk all things Steven Spielberg, and also a podcast called Easy Riders Raging Podcast, where we look at retro films. So we did a series on 50s films, a series on 60s films, and a series on 70s films.
With the Steven Spielberg podcast, do you rub your hands whenever you hear of him doing a new project? West Side Story, for example, being the most recent one.
Oh yeah. Any news of new Spielberg stuff, it's like hook it to my veins. Yeah,
because at the moment that feed's kind of random, isn't it, in terms of when new films get popped into it?
Yeah. So he hasn't directed so many in the last few years, but he also produces stuff. So we get to cover stuff that's tied to him, like the new Jurassic Park film later this year and stuff like that.
Jurassic Park. Jack Reacher, as you're named on Squadcast. Who are you?
My name is Liam Dempsey. I am the host of Spocklight, a Star Trek podcast from a non-Trekkie perspective, where we look at the world of Star Trek, not just Star Trek itself, but also movies and TV shows adjacent to Star Trek, linked by the vast Star Trek alumni that is in existence.
My God, and there's almost too much Star Trek at the moment, isn't there?
There is a new Star Trek TV show launched every week at the moment. Literally 52 weeks of the year, they launch a new Star Trek TV show. It's getting a bit crazy, especially as we can't watch all the shows at the moment because we haven't got Paramount Plus in the UK yet.
What's on Paramount Plus?
Paramount Plus is Paramount's own streaming service.
No, I mean, what shows on Paramount Plus? Sorry, that you can't see.
Everything, all of Star Trek. But the thing is, so at the moment there are some like stuff that's still showing, like Picard season 2's just started on Amazon Prime, but we haven't got Star Trek Discovery season 4 yet, because that was on Netflix, but at the last minute, Paramount went, no, fuck you, we're going to keep it on Paramount Plus, and so we haven't been able to see it. It's currently airing in the UK on a thing called Pluto TV, which no one knows how to work.
It was a bit of a story, wasn't it? A bit of a slap in the face to very loyal fans.
Yeah.
It was a proper like, who?
Yeah, exactly. It's a sore point. Pluto TV's not a streaming service. It's basically like a TV station on an app. So you have to watch it at specific times and stuff like that. It's like,
it's so like 1995.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is not like if I wanted to go back to a time where I had to edit out the adverts myself by pressing stop on my video recorder, I'd go back in time.
Well, I mean, that's just enough reason to invent time travel. I think that's that's the one good use of it. Guys, well, you're both returnees to Flixwatcher podcast. Can you remember the films you chose when you first came on here?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I chose Network, Sidney Lumet's classic.
Yeah. Yourself, Chris?
I chose City of God.
Oh, that was unfortunately quite a low score, wasn't it? Because the small screen score, everyone wanted to watch it in the cinema.
Low score, great film.
Yeah, I was about to say, how on earth could City of God get a low score? But that does make a degree of sense. Yeah.
Well, today we're talking about Jack Reacher, which is your choice. Liam, can you tell us first of all why you chose it, and then second of all, give us a synopsis in a minute or less.
So I was inspired to choose Jack Reacher because obviously very recently we've had the launch of the Reacher TV series on Amazon Prime, which has been a big hit for them. And I kind of think because of that, that this film might get a little bit forgotten. Because obviously so many of the fans were really, really happy with the new series, especially the casting being more in line with what is described in the books. I think this film might get unfairly forgotten, and it's still on Netflix, so I wanted to kind of rise it up a bit.
Okay, and are you ready for the synopsis?
I am ready.
Okay, timer starts now.
So, the film centers around the investigation to a seemingly random sniper mass shooting. When captured by the authorities, James Barr, the lead suspect in the killings, will only speak to one man, Jack Reacher. Reacher is a former army military officer turned aimless drifter who turns up to investigate the matter himself before anyone can actually find him, teaming up with Barr's defense attorney, Helen Rodin, and the owner of local shooting range, former Marine Martin Cash, to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, the true villains of the police, led by former Soviet political prisoner known only as the Zek, attempt to frame Reacher to foil his investigation.
It sounds like you prepared that.
I did prepare it.
With your trailer man voice as well.
Well, thank you very much for preparing. Like I say it's quite often, but Helen and I have to do this once every 100 episodes, and we are both terrible. So well done, guys, for that. Where are we on Jack Reacher? I've got to admit, this is the first time I've watched a Jack Reacher film, so thank you very much for bringing it to the table. But Chris, what's your Reacher experience?
I'm a massive fan of the books. No, not really at all. Actually, that's a lie. I saw this film when it came out on DVD, and I even saw the sequel, which was like How I Met Maria Hill. That's my memory of the film.
Oh right, is it got Kobe Smulders?
Yeah, that's the only thing I can remember about the sequel.
Sure. Helen?
I knew this was a film. I had not seen it before. And, Tom Cruise, he always puts in a good show, and Christopher McQuarrie as well. Their relationship is pretty solid. I mean, it is a film. I mean, I'd say it's solid, isn't it? It's.
No, I was asking what you knew about
I don't know.
Reacher beforehand.
Nothing. It was a book.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise was cast, and everyone was upset because he's too short.
Yeah, I mean, should we address that little nugget first? I mean, for me, it was this. This could have been another Tom Cruise film. I don't know what he brought to it specifically, but apart from it, obviously he's a good actor. I don't know. Yeah, sorry, I should ask you, Liam. How much of a fan of Lee Child's outputs are you?
Yes, I've never read any of the books at all. Literally, I only heard about them when this film was announced. I just immediately liked the idea of the books, the idea of that character. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And obviously immediately heard about the controversial casting of Cruise, because the actual character is, I mean, certainly a
foot taller.
Yeah, in the new TV series, he's 6'5", which is my height. And Cruise is obviously not 6'5", and lots of people were very, very unhappy about that. However, you know what? I think, really, I should be angry as well, because us tallies, we get done over in the acting game, and lots of tall people don't get hired because they look too large on screen compared to all the other shorties around. And so I should have been really against his casting, but I do love Cruise. I think he's one of the last great Hollywood movie stars. And to be fair to him, I mean, he definitely jacked up for this role. I mean, he is ripped for it. And
I mean, isn't that him perpetually now, though, with every Mission Impossible film and doing Top Gun? And for the last 10 years, hasn't he just been in peak physical condition?
I don't know. I think at this point, I thought he looked extra jacked in this movie. Like, I felt like he put some extra work in to get that Reacher physique. And I think that Cruise has enough presence to him to kind of like pull off the role, like the fact that he's meant to be this intimidating hardcore guy, like despite the fact that yes, he is a short ass and everything like that, but I think he genuinely pulls it off. Like when he gets led outside in that bar fight, when they're kind of like taking outside to duff him up, and he turns around and is like, just remember, you wanted this. It is like, you do believe he could take those guys apart completely. He's got that confidence to him.
And there's more in the fact that if it seemed like, if he was a tall person like yourself, or, I used to play rugby, so a lot of guys I know are like 6'7" plus. If someone was in a bar and said, let's go for a ruck. Well, first of all, it would very rarely happen because they think, nope, I'm going to get, if I get hit once, it's going to take me out. But with someone of Tom Cruise's size, you might think, well, I fancy my chances here.
Yeah, exactly. I think it makes us slightly different because in the new series, which I watched the first episode of the new series deliberately to prepare for this podcast, and literally in that you do kind of feel like, who would start on this guy? He's not only is he incredibly tall, but he's absolutely huge, and you just think he'd just annihilate anyone. So whereas in this, when they tell us, so you do feel like they are cocky because they're like, it's 5 against 1, you don't stand a chance, and then he surprises them. So yeah, I think it kind of works.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's interesting for a Tom Cruise film. I don't think he ran in it.
Hold on, let's have a think. There might have been some jogs,
but there wasn't like any mad sprints.
No. But I can't envisage Reacher as a 6'7" behemoth being a big runner.
And like I said, I don't know if there were any points in the film where he flashed his kind of trademark shit-eating grin to the camera. Tom Cruise is known for his smile, and I don't remember Reacher smiling.
No, not at all. Well, we've spoken a lot about Tom Cruise's casting, but what about the other cast? Because I thought it was actually pretty deep, pretty good casting all around.
It's pretty stacked.
I mean, it's a shame they didn't have anything to do, but it was nice to see them.
It was a mixed bag for me. I'm not sure everyone got the same kind of direction. I'm not quite sure of some of the casting, but
who? Tell us.
So, I really love Gone Girl, but I'm not sure Rosamund Pike was quite the right choice for this. Maybe her permanently surprised face didn't quite match the mood, but then it was kind of balanced out by Werner Herzog giving the performance of the entire film, I think, getting all the jokes and getting to just completely run with it. So,
why did they always choose the bullet?
Did I have a knife in Siberia?
When I was in the Soviet Gulag, I had to bite off the ends of my frozen fingers and eat them to survive.
That's an Oscar-winning performance, if I've never seen one.
I mean, I love it. I remember when he was cast and people being like, what the fuck? This is mental. Like, because I think now he's like acting quite a few things like since, but at the time it seemed like an insane casting for Werner Herzog to play the villain in this Hollywood action movie. But I mean, inspired, absolutely inspired.
I think he needed the money.
Well, yeah, he doesn't need him. He's got a great voice, hasn't he? And I think Chris McQuarrie was just like, dude, let's get your voice on camera. Because each time in his documentary, when he narrates, it's really makes it super fascinating, doesn't it? But he's in The Mandalorian. Well, he was in The Mandalorian at the.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Give me the child.
What about the other cast, Helen? You said you mixed bag.
I mean, obviously, it's always a pleasure to see Richard Jenkins, but he doesn't really have much to do. So, yeah, I mean, I think Tom Cruise was fine in this. But yeah, there's this. Oh yeah, and Robert Duvall plays classic Robert Duvall. But it kind of felt like each actor was kind of like acting in a slightly different film, and when they all came together, it was a bit mixed. And I'm not sure the chemistry was quite there between Cruise and Pike with her impressive cleavage. She was pregnant at the time, which is why she has quite a prominent bosom in it, which was picked up by quite a lot of people. Obviously, cleverly kind of like hidden, but not that hidden.
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember Rosamund Pike being so chesty before.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I'm glad you've raised this, Helen, as the woman in the podcast. Like, I know. So it was like literally like, whoa, I do not remember Pike having these. I've not noticed it before. I mean, I think she's perfectly solid in the film, to be honest, and I think everyone's doing a decent job. I love Duvall in it. He's got, he is doing Duvall, but it's Robert Duvall. Like, that's fine. Like, and you know what? I think it's not up against massive stiff competition, but definitely Jai Courtney's best performance this side of Captain Boomerang in Suicide Squad.
Well, we're also missing out on David Oyelowo.
Yes, he's great.
I mean, the plot turn with his character late in the film feels really like first draft. It doesn't really make any sense.
He doesn't get an explanation, does he? He just sort of, when she asks him, he just sort of says,
He's just bad. I mean, that was a surprise. That twist, I think, is a shock when it happens. But I think the reason it's a shock is nothing.
There's no
prior
reason
to
for
that.
it.
Yeah, nothing prior to that would lead you to believe in any way that he would be bad. It just is suddenly like, oh, by the way, he's bad. And but it kind of like he's giving an intense enough performance to kind of make it work for me.
I think the track they led there was, one of them's bad. It's either your dad or David. And of course, everyone goes towards his dad, to Jenkins, and it wasn't. It was the other guy. So that's the only kind of setup.
But yeah, it felt like a twist for twist's sake. Like, well, we're going to have a twist.
Yeah. And we already had a twist. Well, is it a twist? Was it? We just knew it wasn't Jai Courtney. We knew it was Jai Courtney rather than James Barr, whatever his name is.
Yeah, I mean, we literally see him commit the murders in the opening scene. So I'm not sure if it can count as twist.
It was like this is one question I was asking, want to know about if anyone has read the books, if it's like a Columbo-esque type setup where you know as a viewer who the baddie is, and it's up for Reacher or Columbo to sort it out. I don't know if that's the standard format for these books.
I mean, I'm literally just basing this on having watched the first episode of the Amazon Prime TV series, but that doesn't happen in the Amazon Prime TV series. You don't immediately know who it was who did it. So I will say no, but I do now want a Jack Reacher Columbo crossover.
Yeah, so Columbo being Mark Ruffalo.
Oh yes, Mark Ruffalo would be an amazing Columbo.
Chris, anything you want to say?
Well, the backstory to the whole shooting thing, it's all really weird because obviously we know it was John McClane's son from Die Hard in Russia that did the dirty, but
Die Hard in Russia.
It turns out Reacher is defending this guy who didn't do this killing spree, but he did another one. But it turned out he got quite lucky because accidentally the people he killed were rapists. And you're going, okay, so I'm rooting for this guy to get free. I get, it's real like odd backstories. It's real like, ooh, that's a puzzler, like an exposition dump.
Well, Jack Reacher had promised him that if you ever do this again, like I'm going to take you down, and obviously he didn't do this one, but he could essentially just fit him, go, oh yeah, well, I did say if that I'd get him somehow, so I could just let him go down for this, but of course he doesn't do that because he's Jack Reacher. He does the right thing.
Reacher's like a one-man A-team.
Yeah, yes, yeah, he is. That is a very good
does he take himself away to a corner and build a tank out of a piece of paper and a straw?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't armour a van, which is standard A-team procedure.
No, but his plan does come together at the end.
Well, great. Guys, anything you want to say before we head to the scores?
Just this, like I will say right now, I think this is a great movie. Hence, choosing it. Written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie. I think this signaled a full creative rebirth for him, as a filmmaker, because prior to this, he was literally most famous for writing the script to The Usual Suspects. And then this is only his second film as director. His directorial debut is a film called Way of the Gun, which came out in literally 2000, so 12 years prior to this, which is a good film, but it flopped majorly at the box office. So he was in kind of essentially Hollywood director jail for many, many years. He got the opportunity to give this, and I think he grabbed it with both hands. I think McQuarrie directs with such elegance and classical filmmaking style. I think his films are precision tooled, taking his time in the right way. I think they're really, really well paced and classically done. And he's become Cruise's man. He's literally worked with him now on films, counting ones that haven't been released, like 10 different movies that he's worked on with Cruise as either writer, director, producer, or some kind of consultant or something like that. So he is very much like Cruise's guy who he trusts and wants on all of his films. And I think he's such a steady pair of hands. I really do. And I think there's so many sequences in this that are so well put together.
I think the key, like you said there, is the sequences, because rewatching this, I could see how he got the Mission Impossible gig, because when he does the set pieces, the film really comes to life. Yeah. Just in between, the plot's real sort of forgettable / unfollowable. And when they're not doing some action, I'm not super engaged. But like I say, when he's beating people up or doing a car chase, it's all good.
I mean, let's head to the scores and talk a bit more about that as we do so.
Hello, I'm Kate Lever, host of Who's a Good Dog, the podcast for anyone who's ever loved a dog. We're one of the other podcasts in the Stripped Media family. Each episode, I ask a brilliant person to introduce me to their dog and tell me how having a dog has changed their life. Listen to Who's a Good Dog wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. As always, they're out of 5. You may have decimal places if you wish. And let's start with you, please, Liam, with your recommendability.
Okay, so I'd give this a 4 for recommendability. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone because some people have Tom Cruise prejudice, number one. And literally just because I don't think it's a film for everyone. It's like, I love it because I'm an action movie lover. And I think this is just a great actioner, but in a kind of really incredibly well made way with a little bit of substance to it. I actually think the detective story is well plotted and stuff like that, and well, but I like seeing him put it together. He's kind of one of those Sherlock Holmes-esque kind of characters who's kind of gradually kind of dissecting what exactly happened and why it kind of happened this way and everything. So it's a strong 4 for me. I think if you like this kind of film, you're going to dig it.
Chris?
2.5. And I went on the basis that I probably wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but at the same time, I wouldn't unrecommend it to anyone. So that's why it's solidly in the middle of the 5.
Well, so if someone said, I'm interested in watching it, should I watch it? You'd say, well, yeah.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't wear an A card. You wouldn't wear a card saying, like in Leicester Square, saying, watch Jack Reacher.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you're going to get a perfectly watchable film, but if you've got anything you'd rather watch, then maybe tonight's the night.
Helen?
I'm going to give it a solid 3. It's a 3. It's a 3 film. It's got that kind of vibe. Mine would be like, do you find Werner Herzog quite entertaining in films? Yes, then you should watch it. It's not Mission Impossible like 5 recommendability. It is a bit long.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 3.2. It's about exactly what I thought it was going to be, and that's kind of the best I can say. I enjoyed it. I'm kind of interested in the TV show because I think there'll be more substance to it. But I'm not sure I'm going to revisit it. I'm not sure. I didn't really think about it after I finished it, but I was quite into it whilst I was watching it. But then I don't know what the elements were, and I think I agree with Helen on the Rosamund Pike thing. I really enjoy her, but I'm not sure why, because she's great in Gone Girl, and then she's great in other things, but I can't really pinpoint what it is about her. Don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, 3.2. Repeat viewing score, Liam.
So I'll give this a strong 4 for repeat viewing score because this is about the 3rd or 4th time I've seen it. I think it's the 4th time I've seen it. I saw it in the cinema when it came out, And I actually think it's got loads of really rewatchable scenes, which kind of, like sort of Chris says, like, it's about the sequences, but there's enough of them that I'm like, I just want to watch the film rather than just watch a random scene on YouTube, because I'm like, the sniper shooting at the beginning, incredible. The fight outside the bar,
so dark. So
dark.
Dark.
It's a stunning way to open your movie, and it sets a dark tone, because that is a really, really dark way to open your movie, and it's incredibly well put together and shot as well. The fight outside the bar, where you first see just how much Reacher can tear people apart, is amazing. The actual car chase itself, which really takes advantage of the fact that you've got Cruise who can actually do his own stunt driving in the car, and it's all done properly practically, and you can literally, it's shot in such a way to show you that it is always Cruise driving that car at the end of the day. Because literally, I don't know if you've ever heard this anecdote from Simon Pegg, but he talks about shooting Rogue Nation, and there's a car chase in that. And when they were about to shoot it, he was like, "Oh, where's the stunt driver?" And they were like, "Oh, Tom's driving the car." There's no stunt driver who's better than Tom, so just let him do it. And that sequence is such a muscular car chase. It's great. The introduction to the Zek, where we first meet Herzog, amazing. And the ending shootout and fight with Reacher's big fight with Jai Courtney, which is such a well put together fight sequence, because it just really feels like two really well trained guys going at it, where they're quite equally matched. And so there's so many rewatchable sequences that I just love seeing again and again. So it's a 4 for me.
Chris?
I went with 2.5 again. Liam does highlight that the sequences are good, but it's that weird thing in rewatching it that I think the only reason I'd rewatch it is for the sequences. Whereas, because like I said, the second time I've watched it, the sequences hold up, but unless it's Werner Herzog chewing the scenery, everything outside the sequences didn't really hold up. So,
what about the reveal that Tom Cruise worked out the motive with, and that the guy was following him in the car all the whole day?
I mean, I still don't know what the motive was. Was it some sort of real estate scam? I don't know. It was over my head, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, the motive was kill one person, but you want to kill one person, but you kill 4 others to kind of
cover up,
obfuscate what's going on. And what the one person you want to kill was Olene Thingy, and Tom Cruise wrote it on a piece of paper and he handed it to Rosamund Pike as he was divulging his knowledge.
Well, Herzog would have got away with it if it wasn't for those pesky kids.
Well, this is it. Helen, repeat viewing score.
Probably unlikely to go back to this one. One thing I did want to say, I quite enjoyed the baseball bathtub fight, which apparently it's a joke because all bathrooms in Pittsburgh are apparently like super, super small. So if you live in Pittsburgh and you watched it at the cinema, everyone there would have been, "Oh my God, it's funny because it's true." But even that is probably unlikely to draw me for a repeat view. It's like 2 hours 11, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's over 2 hours.
It is a long one. May possibly watch the second film, possibly.
I wouldn't really want the second film. Second film's not anywhere near as good. But Kobe Smulders is really good in it. She's the highlight. But yeah, it's not. It's directed by Ed Zwick rather than McQuarrie, who can be a good director, but he really kind of just took a paycheck with the second film.
So what's your score, Helen?
I'd give it a 2. I mean, unlikely, but if I was made to watch it, I'd be fine.
Forced.
I'm going to go for 1.5. I'm even less likely to watch it. I was quite irritated by that fight scene in the bathroom, because I was just like, this isn't Reacher being the badass. This is him being lucky that those guys don't know how to swing a baseball bat in a bathroom.
Well, they were the Three Stooges as like fucks.
Yeah. I was like,
it's because the Pittsburgh bathrooms are too small.
Yeah, don't you know about the Pittsburgh bathrooms, Covey?
No, but that's the point, though. It wasn't Reacher being a badass to stop them hitting him. It's because circumstances coalesced that he couldn't get hit. And he was just, he fell over, first of all, didn't he?
It does go from like serious, like people being picked off with a sniper to like lols in the bathtub with baseball bats, and it does swing a little bit wildly from lols about him taking his shirt off and people being snipering and things. It's a bit wild, isn't it?
Small screen score, Liam.
My small screen score for this would be a 3. The only reason it's 3 is I did see it in the cinema. And I do think this is a proper film. I think it's got like we've been talking about the standout sequences of the movie. I think they really do look good. Like that car chase on the big screen looks absolutely amazing. And this so reminds me of kind of 70s movies filmmaking style and such. And I think it is designed for cinema, even though I think it can work on TV. But having watched the first episode of the new TV series, that does not have the cinematic competence that this does. Okay. And I think it shows it up. So I think you should watch this on the big screen and watch the Amazon Prime show on the small screen.
So what was your score, sorry? 3. Chris?
I wrote down 4. I thought it looked fine on my telly, and I don't have a massive set, so yeah.
Helen?
Yeah, I mean, I have no need to watch this at the cinema, so yeah, a 5 for small screen. I don't think it's Mission Impossible scale of special effects requirement, and yeah, it kind of feels a bit Friday night action film. I've just made that up. Friday night is action film night. Yay.
I think we knew what you meant. So what was your score?
5.
5. Yeah, I've gone for a 5 as well. I think perfectly fine on the small screen. I think it worked great on the small screen. I think I'm going back to that Columbo thing again as well. I enjoy that kind of film that kind of meanders along a bit. You don't really need to pay attention to it, and then you can kind of zone in a bit when things get a bit more exciting. And I think that's exactly what this kind of was. Engagement score, Liam.
Engagement score would be a strong 4, I think, overall. I think when it comes to the set piece sequences, then it's a 5. I'm engaged on that level. But overall, I'd say it's a 4. Although I actually think it's really methodically paced, I think you could tighten it up a little bit, just to literally bring it under the 2-hour mark. Like, even if you literally just cut like 12 minutes out or something, like literally just to bring it under the 2-hour mark, I think that would be good. It's one of those things where I'm always, whenever I look at the back of the Blu-ray, I'm like, oh yeah, this film's over 2 hours, isn't it? Like, yeah, just a bit surprised. Doesn't feel like it should be. So literally just bring that just under the 2 hour. But in general, I am engaged by it. Like when I watched it the other night, rewatched it, I did not look at my phone. So, I concentrated on the film. So there you go.
Chris?
There was one thing that played in my mind all the way through the film. I was like, I know that actress. What is her name? And I literally spent the whole film coming up with women's names to try and help myself remember her name. I kept going, yeah, but she's in Lord of the Rings. She's not in Lord of the Rings. The amount of times I went, it's Miranda Otto. It's not Miranda Otto. And I guess maybe that is a factor that I was so easily distracted by my sort of brain, my pandemic meltdown brain. So what I'm saying is 2.5.
Did you not feel the urge to Google?
It was a test. I was treating it like a fidget spinner or a kind of Sudoku, but I failed. So
Helen,
I mean, this is very bit of a 2-screen film, isn't it? You could definitely be doing something on your phone while watching this. I'm going to give it a 3. There's like bits where you kind of have to be following to find out like when the twist is and to have your suspicious confirmed that there is a twist. But it takes like over an hour to get to like the twist, or the like duh, 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 and I feel that it could have been a lot shorter. So we're 3. Solid. It's just 3s.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 2.8 here. I think it's fine. I think, and that's for the first viewing. And I think second viewing, I'll be less interested. And I was kind of intrigued as to how when he's going to realize that James Barr wasn't the shooter. And the point of you kind of knew these things were going to happen. You're going to realize that he wasn't the shooter. He's going to realize he's going to then try and absolve him and then try and work out the story. So I was kind of drawn into that web. But that gives us an overall score, guys, of 3.25000. Liam, I'm sure you want that to be higher.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not happy about this, but yeah, I'm just going to go on a reacher rage attack after this record.
Well, guys, we're going to just go to Twitter because we've had a few responses here. Anyone who's listening, if this is your first time or if this is a subsequent time you've not followed us, we are at Flixwatcher Pod on Twitter. One of the main reasons to follow us is because we put a tweet out before going into the recording saying something like this. We're reviewing Jack Reacher with Liam H Dempsey from Spocklight Pod, and Chris from ERR Podcast. Tell us your thoughts and your score out of 5 stars for an on-air shout-out on Flixwatcher. We had a few responses. Liam, this is your film. Do you want to take us with the first response?
So I got a response from editor of Empire magazine, Nick Semlin, who gave
you somewhat baited him here, didn't you?
I did, because I was looking for champions for this film, and I mistakenly thought that because I'd listened to the Empire spoiler special on Jack Reacher, which is hosted by Nick Semlin, Chris Hewitt, and James Barr. And my memory was that they all loved it. So I tagged them all, going, come on, guys, come and show support for Reacher. Then Nick stabbed me in the back when he came in and said, sorry, I don't much care for it. But he did come back and say 3 stars for me, and that he does like Werner Herzog's Milky Eye. And luckily, Chris Hewitt brought up the rear saying great film, gets better with every passing year, so victory there.
And James Dyer says nothing.
He does say nothing.
Chris,
Steve EILFM podcast,
Everything I Learned from Film,
yes, gave it 3 stars, said it was okay. Granted, I knew nothing about the books, but my stepmom, who loved books, was livid about Tom Cruise physically and the character in the movie in general. Excited to watch the Alan Rickman version, which I keep reading is watch the Alan Rickman version, which I would have liked to see.
Alan Rickman's Jack Reacher, I would have loved to have seen it.
I'm gonna. This is based on the book One Shot.
Yeah, it's like the 8th novel.
I might get an Audible download of it and listen to it.
Really?
But yeah, I want to. Sometimes you just need to compare, don't you? Because if Steve's stepmom was livid, I'd like to know what she was livid about.
I think she's literally just livid he's not tall.
No, but physicality and the character in the movie in general.
I mean, literally, just look at a picture of Alan Richardson with his top off, and I think you'll see why. Like she was livid, because he's far more representative of what that character is. Maybe in the description of the books, Jack Reacher. I
was thinking more of the motives. I thought she might be annoyed at the motives and how the character plays out.
Oh no, I don't think so. I think it's all about the physicality. In the books, the description of Jack Reacher says that his pecs are so big that they can stop a bullet. So there you go.
We've got one more that came in from Lee Thomas.
Lee Thomas, thank you very much.
So thanks, Lee, regular contributor. Werner Herzog as a bad guy. What more do you want? 3.5.
So it's all thereabouts where we've ended up. So thank you very much, guys, for your tweets. Chris and Liam, can you tell everyone where we can find you online and say goodbye to the listeners?
Thank you so much, Lee, for your kind words. You can find me at Spocklight Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can check out more of my rambling on that podcast over there. I also do occasional TV and film stuff for BBC local radio, so you can occasionally hear me there as well.
When Herzog wasn't actually in it that much, was he? And got killed a bit too easily in the end, I think. Anyway, Chris.
Well, I mean, topical Russian nutjob villain.
Well, I mean, this is supposed to be evergreen podcast, Chris, full of. No one talks about Brexit here. No one talks about COVID. No one talks about wars on Ukraine or Syria or Palestine. You've just brought this
hopefully
down.
everything's a lot better by the time this airs.
Next week. Yeah, good.
Sure.
Who are you, Chris? Where can
people can see me and my pecs that can stop bullets at ERR Podcast on Twitter, and on all the podcast platforms you can hear Easy Riders Raging Podcast and the Spielberg Pod.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.